I'm a geologist too, and I love to talk about Florida Springs. And one of the jobs I had at the Water Management District was actually developing training programs on Florida Springs that I gave to staff and then I gave to the general public, the geology and hydrology of Florida Springs. I had one course that I taught, took 3 hours to teach it, and I couldn't believe the students were still awake at the end of the 3 hours. But today I'm not going to talk about geology or hydrology of Florida Springs. I'm not going to even talk about springs at all today. When Bob asked me to come talk to you a couple months ago, he said, Jim, based on your background and experience, what do you think are some of the things that are needed to get water management districts back on track to do their role in what's needed for spring protection? And I thought to myself, do I have 2 or 3 hours? Now he said you have 6 minutes. Now I think at the time he said 5 minutes. And so I was like, whoa, wow, seriously. So what I did was I made a list. So this is just going to be a bullet list of Jim's top 20 recommendations to get water management districts back on track. And I got them organized under 2 different categories here. One is restoring capacity, the ability to get effective work done in these agencies. And the other one is labeled credibility, because the water management district's credibility has suffered terribly over the last 6 years. And for good reason. Their credibility should be down in the dumps right now. It's just terrible. So if we can just go ahead and have the next slide. I don't need to do a lot of slide stuff. Oh look, they're animated, bummer. Okay, so this is just I'm gonna go really quickly here. Number 1, under restoring capacity, reform the process for recruitment and hiring of executive directors. Executive directors must have strong management skills in addition to, a background in water management, not instead of a background in water management. Okay? Number 2, workforce stability. Promote workforce stability, enhance the morale of agency staff. Declining staff morale over the last few years has seriously compromised the effectiveness of the staffs at these agencies. Number 3, enhance internal transparency in agency decision-making. This has been a huge problem. The lack of transparency has led to fragmented and inefficient work at these water management districts. There's nothing trickling down from executive management through middle management in many of these agencies. Staff don't even know what they're supposed to be doing. Number 4, strategic planning. This I'm going to tie to regional water supply planning. Incorporate strategic planning into long-term regional water supply planning. Regional water supply planning in Florida has largely deteriorated into a checklist kind of exercise. These plans now lack a strategic vision of how to get the goals, objectives, and goals done. We just get a bunch of recommendations, but there's no vision of how to get them done. Number 5, outsourcing. This has been a big one. This is a big private sector one. Utilize outsourcing of professional services only when it makes sense. Okay? The water management districts do not exist solely to subsidize private industry. It's not their purpose. Number 6, rebuild institutional knowledge. Institutional knowledge is the greatest asset that these water management districts have, and it has been decimated. Number 7, hiring and promotions. Not rocket science. Base hiring and promotions on knowledge, skills, and abilities, not on political cronyism. Number 8, strive for continuous improvement. This one really applies to St. John's. They just had this thing where they got on it and couldn't get off of it. But don't let continuous improvement become an end in itself at the expense of the business of water management. 9, stop, for God's sake, stop the endless reorganizations at these water management districts. It's gotten to be scary. You know, you blink and there's another one. These endless reorganizations have led to inefficiency. I'm not going to get through all 20 of these. We're just going to get through capacity here, I think, today. Number 10, utilize an executive management team. All right? Use them to drive decision makings at these agencies, not to rubber stamp decisions. These are your senior level people. They're weighing in on, they're very important people. Number 11, restore meaningful communication and intergovernmental outreach. It has largely disappeared into meaningless trivia. I saw with my own eyes that most of the local governments no longer had any understanding of what the water supply and water resource issues were because the outreach had just simply evaporated. Number 12, restore programs using citizen volunteers and paid interns. Why? These programs greatly strengthen connections between the water management districts and the communities. They're very important. Okay, I've used up all of my minutes.
Keep going.
You're going to keep going. All right, so I've got a few here on restoring credibility, and there's only 8 here. I'll just talk faster. Number 1, enhance the diversity among water management district governing board members. I could talk forever about this, but for God's sake, the credibility, this decrease in diversity has led to a tremendous decrease in confidence, public confidence. If you look at it, and everybody looks the same up there. They're all 50-year-old businessmen, right? You know? Number 2, and it wasn't always like that, by the way. Number 2, better balance the mix of backroom committee decision-making with more full board deliberation in front of the public's eye where they can actually hear what the issues are. That's almost disappeared as well. Number 3, provide better orientation to governing board members. You know, if you've been watching the press, you know what this means. New governing board members not only need to know what they're supposed to do, they need to know what they're not supposed to do. Number 4, hold governing board meetings in more locations. Yeah. Headquarters is too far for a lot of citizens and even elected officials who need exposure to what's going on in these water management districts. They used to do more of this, and it's really rare today. Casey knows, he was on the road all the time. Number 5, provide short but frequent briefings to governing board members at governing board meetings in front of the public by senior technical staff. Senior technical staff, not managers. These are the people who know, the people who are not here today, right? These things, these kinds of briefings, they not only make the board more effective, they increase confidence among the public that they're hearing what we know from our technical staff, from our engineers and our scientists. Number 6, reduce the now tedious and onerous requirements for approval of water management district budgets. It's gotten crazy. It's absolutely nuts. If you look at the statute, what has to go on, right? The principal source of revenue for these water management districts comes from ad valorem revenue in the districts, right? The people in these districts have begun to lose confidence that the money's being spent where it's needed. Number 7, restore independence in governing board decision-making. This is a big issue. There are real differences between these water management districts and the boards. They need the latitude to be able to consider these differences in making decisions. It can't always be Tallahassee dictating the solution, what the answer is going to be. That's why we have 5 of them. At one time we had 6 water management districts, but 2 of them were joined together back in the early 70s. And finally, number 8, for goodness sakes, utilize appropriate metrics for assessing the performance of these water management districts. This is another pet peeve of mine, and it's not just me. Let me give you an example. Everything boiled down to how fast you could do it at St. John's Water Management District. It's all about how fast you could issue a permit, right? But how fast you measure, how you issue a permit becomes somewhat meaningless if that permit causes significant harm to the environment. What kind of metric is that? There needs to be more metrics besides speed. Okay, that's all 20 of them. Yeah, I could probably give you another 20, but we don't have time for that.